Hello, friends. Welcome back to Get Ready with America. My name is SJ, and I was originally going to take one episode to talk about New York City primaries happening on June 22nd, but then I started my research and realized that was foolish. First, there are 391 candidates running for 60 seats. In the vast majority of these races, the primary winner will be the ultimate winner of their seat given the partisan lean of the city. Given these two factors, it seems worth it to take a little more time to talk about the nuances of a couple of these races, including highlighting what the position itself does and diving into some of the candidates a little deeper. This decision is directly influenced by my last video, where I got to talk about the outgoing representative, the district, and each of the candidates, and I loved that, so I want to do it more. Second, I started circulating a viewer survey asking what you want to see in my videos, and most respondents so far like when these videos are 10 to 15 minutes, and that wasn't going to be possible without breaking up this topic. If you want to take the survey, it's linked in the description box. Today, we're going to look at the citywide races for mayor, comptroller, and public advocate, and next week we'll talk about the borough presidents, city council, and Manhattan district attorney races. For today's look, I'm paying homage to an iconic New York City Luke generator, the Met Gala, and recreating Lizzo's 2019 look without the wig. But we are going to attempt fake lashes, so that'll be interesting. Let's get into it. New York City elects their mayor and a slew of other citywide and borough-wide positions the year after the presidential election. This year's election has some notable differences from years past. First, the primary is taking place in June instead of September. Part of a 2019 state voting bill pushed all primary elections across the state to the same day. Even though this law has been in effect for a couple years, people get used to a standard and don't connect the dots right away, but that means the mayoral primary is earlier than they're used to. So that's one thing for campaigns to focus on when educating voters. Second, the city is using ranked choice voting for the first time. Voters can pick up to 5 candidates and rank them based on their preference. Votes will be counted just like they were in the Virginia Republican Convention. If no candidate reaches 50% of the vote in an initial count of ballots, they'll redistribute the votes from the candidate at the bottom to voters' second choice candidates and keep doing that until a candidate reaches 50%. Third, there's an early voting period and open absentee mail-in voting for the first time. I'll, of course, talk about these at the end of the video. Outgoing Mayor Bill de Blasio has reached his term limit, paving the way for a new mayor to succeed him. He was first elected in 2013, coming from behind in a stacked primary where 3 of the top Democrats in the city were facing off for the position, as well as Anthony Weiner. Remember him? De Blasio easily got through re-election in 2017, despite lots of grumbles already coming after his name when uttered by every New Yorker. They were not pleased when he launched his short-lived presidential campaign, feeling strongly that there was too much happening in the city that needed to be addressed by his undivided attention. A major issue that existed before him was not close to fixed by him and will exist long after him is housing in the city. Both the existence and quality of affordable housing, as well as the number of people experiencing homelessness in the city. This was, of course, all made much, much worse by the pandemic, adding rising unemployment and loss of tax revenue to the equation, and basically the next mayor is going to have their hands full from the start. Another huge issue in the city right now is relations with the police. De Blasio's track record with the NYPD is confusing at best. From installing the police commissioner who introduced stop and frisk under Giuliani after campaigning on opposing the practice, to not doing more over 5 years to force the firing of the officer who killed Eric Gardner, despite drawing special attention to himself as the father of a biracial son. One thing the mayor does not have control over is the Metro Transit Authority, so don't trust anyone who makes promises about the subway, unless we know they're best friends with Andrew Cuomo, which I wouldn't trust them for other reasons. Other major issues for New Yorkers include education, immigration, city infrastructure, and ongoing COVID recovery. In the June 22nd primary, there are 13 Democrats vying for the nomination and 2 Republican candidates vying for theirs. The 2 winning candidates will then face 7 independent or third-party candidates in the November general. However, New York City is basically a Democratic town, and it's assumed that whoever wins the Democratic primary is the de facto mayor. For that reason, I'm going to focus on the Democratic candidates today. I'll note that this is pretty sucky because New York, like New Jersey, does not have open primaries, so only registered Democrats are picking the next mayor. Normally, we'd have a better sense of who is probably going to win thanks to extensive polling, but ranked choice voting makes standard polling difficult because you're less likely to get enough respondents who will give you all 5 of their choices if they even have them, so the top independent pollsters haven't even tried. Polling so far has been primarily from private entities, like a candidate's private polling or from a special interest group, so it's always hard to gauge the bias that plays into their results. Only Emerson College has done an official ranked choice poll, which put Catherine Garcia as the winner after multiple rounds of tabulating the vote. Garcia has been working for the city for years, serving in both the Bloomberg and de Blasio administrations, and recently serving as commissioner of the sanitation department. She touts endorsements from the New York Times and New York Daily News, which is the major factor improving her standing in these final weeks. Also at the top of most polls is Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, a former NYPD captain and state senator. The third at the top is the candidate you've all probably heard of, Andrew Yang, a tech entrepreneur and 2020 presidential candidate who advocated for a universal basic income. It's easier to look at the rest of the candidates in terms of who is a government insider or outsider. In the insider column, we have Art Chang, a finance executive who served on the New York City Campaign Finance Board, Sean Donovan, a former Housing Department Commissioner for Bloomberg and Obama administration member, Scott Stringer, currently the City Comptroller and former Manhattan Borough President, and Maya Wiley, a former counsel to de Blasio and chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Wiley is considered the highest placing progressive candidate in the race, though many are, of course, frustrated that she's not progressive enough with some of her proposals. Hi friends, quick update. The day after I filmed this, Wiley got key endorsements from Reps Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jamal Bowman, as well as earning a #1 ranking from the Working Families Party, basically solidifying her as the progressive candidate to rally around. Stringer was doing very well until late April when he was accused of sexual assault during a previous campaign, and roughly half of his endorsements from individuals and organizations were rescinded. In the outsider column, we have Aaron Foldenauer, a litigator and environmental advocate, Ray McGuire, who left his position as vice chairman of Citigroup to run for mayor, Diane Morales, a founder and leader of several social services nonprofits, Paperboy Love Prince, a rapper and universal basic income advocate, Jocelyn Taylor, a corporate administrator and nonprofit leader, and Isaac Wright Jr., a formerly incarcerated lawyer whose story inspired a TV series. McGuire has some interesting endorsements. On one end, Eric Garner's mother, Gwen Carr, and former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett, and on the other end, Jay-Z and Spike Lee. Morales' campaign made news recently when staff issues became public. I was about to make a standalone video on the issue after reading some hot takes about how much people in my profession should be paid, but instead I'll explain the situation and why it sucks in 3 run-on sentences. Staff complained about abusive behavior from 2 senior staffers, and when Morales would not outright fire these people due to personal connections, the campaign manager and a senior strategist, both young women of color, quit. And also, the staff moved to form a union to address long-standing issues with management and compensation. While the accused staffers were finally let go, the campaign also fired staffers who were leading the union formation effort, even though Morales was publicly saying she supported the effort. So staffers went on strike, and now all trust of acting in good faith is gone on both sides. Morales is considered the most progressive candidate in the field of 13, so it's demoralizing from a campaign worker's perspective for a candidate who centers general workers' issues in their campaign to not exhibit those values where they're in charge, thus making it hard to envision them fulfilling their platform if they actually take on the job. It should be noted, I can guarantee that the vast majority of campaigns in the city have terrible managers and bad pay because that is par for the course on campaigns and why they've started forming unions. As far as who you should vote for and how to rank them, I've linked a resource in the description box put together by nonpartisan digital news platform The City, where you can answer questions about 15 issues to find who best aligns with your values. Paperboy Love Prince just missed my top 5. The other highly contested citywide race is for Comptroller, the person who manages the finances of the city. The office of the Comptroller employs a staff of about 800 people who oversee agency spending, manage the public pension funds, and review city contracts. As mentioned earlier, the city is in dire financial straits due to the pandemic, so this is a major decision for voters to make. The current comptroller, Scott Stringer, has reached the end of his term limit, so we have another open seat that 10 Democrats are pursuing. The winner will face a Republican candidate and a conservative candidate in the general. This race isn't getting much coverage, so looking at endorsements, it looks like Brad Lander, a city council member from Brooklyn, is leading the pack. He's notably endorsed by New York reps Jerry Nadler, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Jamal Bowman, as well as a couple public workers unions, since their role handles the pensions, this is pretty key, and several progressive organizations, including the Stonewall Democrats. Happy Pride, fam. I'll link another resource from the city in the description box that talks about the city comptroller role and links to each candidate's website so you can find out more. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. The final citywide race is for public advocate. This is not an open seat. Current PA Jermaine Williams won 2 special elections for the seat after Letitia James ascended to become the state attorney general so that she can prosecute Donald Trump. She's getting there. The first election was to replace her when she left the office. The second was to finish the rest of her term, so he's running for his first full term. The Office of the Public Advocate handles all of the complaints of New Yorkers. Who wants that job? They then run awareness campaigns based on those complaints by publishing reports, filing lawsuits, or holding rallies. They can play a big role in city legislation by introducing bills or co-sponsoring them with city council members, though they ultimately don't vote on any legislation. Williams, who was elected in 2019, previously served as a city council member from Brooklyn. He is facing Theo Chino, a Bitcoin entrepreneur and systems engineer. Williams will win the primary and the general. Let's talk about voting. I mentioned a whole bunch up top, and we'll go over all of it all again now. First, New York has closed primary elections, so only registered Democrats and Republicans can vote in their party's primary. Next, New York City is using ranked choice voting for the first time, where voters can pick up to 5 candidates ranked in order of preference. You do not have to vote for 5 candidates. You don't even have to vote for more than one. This is why it's worth it to check out every candidate individually pretty extensively. The advantage to ranked choice voting is really more for blocking who you don't want to get elected while still voting your conscience. You rank the candidate that doesn't seem like they have a chance, but you so perfectly align with their platform first. And then you can rank the more popular choice second, so there's a better chance the popular candidate you hate can lose. There are more resources from the city as well as NYC votes in the description box for you to learn more and even practice how you're going to rank your candidates. Early in-person voting for all voters starts this Saturday, June 12th. Voting sites are specific to where you live, and you can look it up on New York City's Board of Elections website, linked in the box. Mail-in ballots are also available to all voters, and the deadline to request a ballot is next Tuesday, June 15th. Returned ballots must be postmarked by June 22nd and will be accepted up to 7 days after Election Day. If you are voting on the 22nd, polls are open 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. After the early voting turnout in New Mexico, I'm very interested to see the early vote turnout for New York. As always, I have links in the description box for you to look up your registration status and where to vote. And that's it. Well, for this week. Come back next time to talk about borough presidents, city council, and the Manhattan district attorney's races. And see another Met Gala look. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel to learn more about voting in other states. If you're enjoying this series and want to show big support, please check out my Patreon in the description box. A special shout out to Alexander Slamilton, one of my patrons and former Derby teammates, for the rad end music you're about to hear. I'll see you next week.